Hello, welcome to Learning to Drum. I'm your host, Adam Tevlin, and we are in week 50, right? 50 weeks of drumming. How cool is that? In episode 47. Okay, well, thanks for joining me once again. Last week we did study number 23. We learned a different way of playing those 16th notes as diddles. You don't have to do that, but I just wanted to make sure that you understand that is an option for you. And then we also tested on the triplet roll. So this week we're going to get into solo number 10. It is our last solo for the season. I just want to congratulate you so far on all the hard work that you've put into this with hanging through these 50 weeks of drumming. So we're going to get into solo number 10, but before that, we're not going to test. Nope, no tests today. So have a little bit of a sigh of relief. And let's just jump right into solo number 10 now. Up at the top, we have a new cymbal. And my band director, my very first band director, Mr. Jerry Oliver, Mr. O is what we called him. I know I've mentioned him a few times here in this program. So he used to call it a bird's eye. And the reason why he called it a bird's eye, well, for kids, they probably wouldn't remember fermata. So fermata is the technical term for it. And what it is basically is a hold. So we talked about conductors, you know, how they conduct, whether it be in 4 or 2, okay, or 3, right? You know, 6 or 12. Most of the time, of course, if it's a faster tempo, they'll conduct it in 4 or 2, right? Okay, well, they also have ways of slowing you down, right, and speeding you up when it comes to an accelerando or a retardando. And also, it's for fermatas. Now, fermata, what is it? It's just a hold, and you're supposed to hold it until the conductor cuts you off, okay? And usually it's at the end of a piece of music, but I've seen it in other parts of music, especially orchestral music. You'll have fermatas, you know, here and there. So you have to watch the conductor constantly, right? Kind of think about, I don't know if you remember the old Looney Tunes where Bugs Bunny is holding his hand up in the air and the opera singer's like holding the note and he's turning red and pink and purple and all that stuff and the collar's starting to bust open and everything and he takes his hand out of the glove and the glove's still going like this, you know. That's a really extreme version of a fermata, but you can kind of think about it like that. We're not going to hold it that long here in this solo, so don't worry about that. Actually, you can hold it for as long as you like or as little as you like. And yes, at the very end of the solo, you can see here we have a multiple bounce roll, concert roll, buzz roll, press roll, whatever you want to call it, but it's our opportunity to be able to play a buzz roll or concert roll or multiple bounce roll or press roll in a real life scenario, right? In the solo here. Notice the retardando, the measure before the last measure, right? We're going to slow it down, and then on 4, we execute the multiple bounce roll. And when we do it together, because we will do it together, we're going to try to do it together without a metronome, but I'll cut you off when we're at that fermata there. Okay, so other rudiments that are featured, because we can consider the multiple bounce roll as a rudiment. Remember I talked about that? So we got the flam and the multiple bounce roll. And I say, yes, this is required. By now, you should be able to do the multiple bounce roll and execute flams in music. So here we go. And we'll dial our metronome down. We'll do it in a 90, you know, just to kind of keep it easy. And we'll play everything approximately at 90, and then I'll play it at tempo for you. Sometimes I play the solo at tempo before, sometimes after. Well, we're going to do it after. So we're going to take it at 8 bars at a time, and notice where the tempo's at is 120 on Marcia, right? Or Marcia, or however you want to call it. It's a march in English. So you should be at that tempo when you're playing the solo, but obviously we slow it down so we can make it easier for you. Okay, let's go ahead and do the first 8 measures there. My metronome is dialed to 90. Having my triplets going, and the high beat is 1 of every 2. Remember, we're in 2, or felt in 2. Okay, first 8 measures. Forte, 1, 2, 1, 2. Here we go. No big deal, okay? And this solo, I did kind of base it on some type of tune that I've played before many times in the orchestra, which is Parade of the Wooden Soldiers. You know, blah, 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 blah. Now this isn't the snare part for that piece. It's just to kind of give you some type of familiarity, okay? And most of the time I am reading music in 6/8 like this. Quarter notes, 1/8 notes, dotted quarter notes, etc. Okay? All right, so there's no 16th notes. All right, so the next 8 bars, we're going to stop at measure 16. And that's just bump, ba bump, bump, ba bump, bump, ba bump, bump. So we're up to forte now, right? Okay, here we go. No big deal. 2, 1, 2, here we go. Okay, so there it is at up to measure 16, and we drop it down to mezzo piano, okay? And so we have some of the same type of rhythms happening. This is kind of a little bit of an easier solo, okay? So hopefully you're having a fun time with it. Okay, here we go for the next 8 bars. Measure 17 through 24. 1, 2, mezzo piano. 1, 2, here we go. 2. All right, cool. Now we're up to forte again. Bum ba da bum ba da bum ba da bum. Okay, something like what we had up at the beginning of the solo, right? Here we go. For the next 8 bars, we're going to stop at measure 32 from bar 25. 2, 1, 2, here we go. 2. Okay, there we go. All right, and we stay at forte, but we drop it down to piano, right? Like the beginning of the solo. This is kind of like a recapitulation of the solo. And what I meant by recapitulation, I've mentioned that before in the season, to where the composer is repeating the main theme at the end of the piece, okay? It could be at the end of the piece, it could be anywhere actually, but a lot of times towards the end of the piece, we'll have a recap or recapitulation of that theme at the beginning, okay? And that's what we have here in the next 8 bars for measure 33 all the way down to 40. Here we go. 1, 2, forte, and down to piano. 1, 2, here we go. Okay, there it is. Now for the last 8 bars, I will not play the metronome, so that way we can slow down there, the last measure before. This is, again, typical type of rhythms that you've seen before. This shouldn't be a big deal. Well, no metronome, that's right. All right, here we go at forte. Ba-ba-da, ba-ba-da. 1, 2, 1, 2, here we go. All right, cool. How did that feel? That little buzz roll right there. Now, when I have a fermata and a buzz roll, it depends on if there's a hit on the next note. If there is, then yes, I'm going to stop strongly. But in this case scenario, and what I usually do in the orchestra, is I'll hold that sustain. Remember the buzz roll or the multiple bounce roll, the press roll, okay? Or the concert roll. It is a sustain, right? We're trying to emulate a sustain of that drum sound, right? And so I'm just going to release it. I'm not going to tag it. I'm not going to clip it. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to lift up off the drum. So it's going to sound like this. And we are at forte, so. And I just go straight up in the up position. I don't want to go, and the conductor cuts off, and I have this big sting or anything. Sometimes fermatas, it's just you want to hold that note for where it's at and cut off. Sometimes though, I'll have that tag at the end to where the conductor's holding that note and there is a sting at the end, okay? So just depends on what the music calls for. So now that we went over the solo number 10, let's do it together, and we're going to be around the 90 mark, okay? There it is, okay? Here we go, the whole thing, all right? See if you can keep up. Ba-da, ba-da, and then I'll play it at tempo. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, here we go. we go. Okay, there it is all together. Hopefully we stayed on tempo there. We might have sped up a little bit, who knows, okay? But I think we were around the ballpark there. Now I'm gonna play it at tempo, and you're gonna hear what it sounds like at 120 beats per minute. By all means, take your time working up to that speed, and you should do just fine, okay? This is not too bad, all right? So let me go and test out what... Okay, there it is, okay? All right, by myself. Here we go at 120. 1, 2, 1, 2, here I go. All right, so that's it. At tempo, hopefully about there. Yeah, I think about there a little bit. So that is solo number 10 in its entirety. These last couple of weeks have been a little bit shorter on the episodes because we're drawing down to the wire here of the end of the season. And next week we're going to be going into our last study, which is study number 24, and we're going to learn a new concept. Actually, you've kind of learned this before already in this season. So we'll go ahead and get started with that and might have a test. Actually, I mean, you can add one and one together. We're probably going to test the triplet drag exercise, okay? So be prepared for that. Hey, I'm giving you a heads up. Cool. Well, this, of course, is all we have on this week's episode of Learning to Drum. Thanks so much so far for joining us these 50 weeks of drumming. Congratulations. Next week, we're in 51, episode 48. 2 weeks left of the season. Please join us next week. I'm your host, Adam Tevlin, and always remember to keep swinging those sticks.